Afternoon, everybody. How cool is this? You know, in Manchester, getting all these talented people in the room, Magento community, it's great. I know you've all had a good feed, so hopefully you won't be falling asleep after that. I'm going to talk today about Magento cache tags and debugging, going through sharing a particular experience we went through with a problem on a site that we'd inherited. So firstly, just generally, what is caching? There's Wikipedia's definition. Caching is a component that transparently stores data so that future requests for that data can be served faster. So we're all aware of this. So many types of caching. It can be the bane of some people's existence when you get stuck into it. Browser caching, reverse proxies, opcode caching, which is PHP level caching. And what I want to speak to you guys more detail about today is application cache in Magento. So this is the screen you'll be familiar with, where you get control of being able to flush the cache. That solves every problem, you all know that. Now, you get the ability to flush different sections of the cache. I know we all often jump to just flush everything. But how does that work? Well, that's where these tags come in, and you can see the associated tags there for the different sections, which I'll go on to now. So how does this work in Magento? Well, basically, it builds on top of Zen's caching mechanisms that are there, but all it is a key value data store. So that means you've got some data that you want to store, and you reference that by the key. But the added bit that makes all this stuff possible is the fact that with any of this data that you are storing, you can add as many tags to that as you want. So that will allow you then to flush out many elements from the cache just by referring to the specific cache tag. By default, it's stored, all the caching is stored on the file system in the var folder. But you wouldn't really recommend doing that because writing to and reading from the file system is slow. So a memory-based cache backend is preferred. Magento supports many out of the box, but we would recommend using Redis as, thanks to Colin Mollenauer, who wrote the adapter to get that working, the benchmarks are out there that performs really well. So the main model that you're looking at is the Mage core model cache. So you can see how you can interact with this. So if you're going to save a value in there, you need the key and the value. And you want to pass in the tags that you want to associate with that data that you're storing away, and also an optional lifetime if you want to specify explicitly when that's going to expire automatically. Your cache backend will have a default that will be used if you don't pass that through. But then you've got the ability to load that data in by referencing the key and removing it explicitly. But the cleaning is the aspect that we're talking about with the tags, so you get to pass in the tags that you want to clear, and that will magically happen. So if you see, if we passed in the associated tag there of config into the clean function, then that would clean out all the values in the cache that are related to config. So what's the problem that I want to talk to you about today is a store that we inherited. It was had a full page caching module on there. So that module was built on top of Magento's cache, so it was storing it in the Magento cache backend that was specified. And the feedback we'd had through was that it was just not holding the cache values. It was dropping consistently throughout the day. Now we've heard today, caching doesn't equal performance, but if your caching isn't working as it should, then it warrants attention. So how did we look into seeing what was going on here? So what tools have we got to use? Well, old school Mage log, that has its usages. You can add Mage logs into the code where appropriate and see what's going on. Xdebug, fantastic tool, so you can actually pause execution, put a breakpoint in your code, and step through line by line, seeing what your variables contain at that point of execution. As we were using Redis, you could actually use the Redis monitor, which not for the faint-hearted. If you want it to look like you've got control of the matrix, this is the kind of stuff that you get. And if anyone commercial in your team walks past your desk, they'll think you are a boffin if you have got that on there. So what do we do when we get these problems? We need to replicate it. We can't solve a problem if you can't replicate it. So we could see that, you know, this was a pretty performant site. Even when it was uncached, it was quick. But when it was cached, it was a small perceptible difference. You could just tell something was going wrong. And from what they told us, it seemed to be happening more often through the day when they were doing catalog updates, and it was holding fine out of hours. So we tested this, and we could see that just one product save would eliminate the cache on every single product in the store, which is clearly not how that caching is supposed to work. You know, it's only supposed to wipe out the elements that are relevant for that change that you're making. So how do we diagnose that issue? Well, I used the Xdebug here, set a breakpoint in the Mage core model cache model that we mentioned earlier on the clean method. So you could investigate exactly what cache tags are being cleared when a product was being saved. So for one particular product here, you can see the tags that are being cleared. There's one specific just to the product, and there are 3 category ones, and that is the top level category that product is assigned to, and 2 subcategories. So that's what I would expect to see. Next was to actually see, for that full page cache, when the product page is visited, what tags are being associated with that data. So we could see here, full page cache, one tag. So that allows you to wipe the whole full page cache out in one go for every single product. If you flushed FPC, it's all going to go. That's expected. The next 4, catalog products, again the product that we were dealing with, and the 3 categories it's assigned to. Again, not unexpected. But then we've got all these other categories, which begs the next question. So, what is going on here? Why are we getting these extra ones? And is that causing the problem? Well, it is going to cause the problem, because if we're associating all these categories, which it turns out are all the top level categories on this store, if we're associating all those to this product, then whenever any other product that's in one of those categories gets saved, it's going to send a flush for that category, and it's going to wipe this product out. And that is why it's flushing every single product out on this store. But why are they being added in? Oops. So, how do we diagnose that further? Well, whenever we get into problem solving in Magento, it's trying to eliminate, any problem solving, eliminate as much as you can, as quickly as you can. Where is this problem coming from? So go back to the core theme, disable all non-core modules, and the behavior went away. The issue was fixed, but fortunately we can't leave it like that. So start re-enabling parts until the issue comes back. And we found that the culprit was an individual module that was a bespoke top navigation replacement for the categories at the top of the site that's used on every single page. But why? So digging into that module further, into the full page cache, to understand how that's working, we can see that there's an observer in the full page cache that's firing off model load after. So that's every single model. It will fire this when it's loaded. After it's loaded, this observer kicks in. And what does it do? Well, it collects tags using the object's get cache ID tags. So why is it doing that? Well, it's actually a good thing. So let's imagine on a product page, you're adding in a featured review. So you're going to load that model at some point in the execution for that product page. So that's going to get cached. So we want a cache tag for that model that's being loaded to be added in, to be associated with that cache entry, so that when that review changes, it will get flushed out and the page will be refreshed. So it's good. But why is it causing us a problem in this case? Digging into the bespoke module that was there, we could see that for each top level category, it was actually doing a full category load, which is a bad thing anyway, because that's bad for performance. But that meant, because each category model was doing a full load, it was adding the cache tags in. So that's a bad thing. So what was the solution? well, we just had to refactor that navigation menu. It wasn't really doing anything particularly special. It was just adding multi-columns in for the subcategories. Still mystified as to why they'd taken that approach, but hey, we all make mistakes. So we replaced that with what the core was actually doing, the approach that uses, which is to use the get categories method from the category resource model. So in short, Xdebug is a great tool, and that can help you check out what your cache tags are doing. If you're not sure and you've got some strange behavior there with your caching, then use that tool. Thank you. Any questions? No, I'll run off then.